Corruption, blatant violations of U.S. law, and drug running are not the only means to a political end. There is mounting evidence that assassinations, even of Americans, are not out of the question.
Well, Mr. Owen, you were in Central America in May of 1984 when a bombing attack was undertaken on the headquarters of then former Contra leader Eden Pastora. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I was. I was down there on a survey for Colonel North. I had a meeting that night with John Hull and also with the senior CIA official in that government, or excuse me, in that country. We discussed what was going on. And I just was shocked, as everyone else was, when we learned about 3:30 in the morning when some of the Nicaraguans came to the apartment and talked with us and told us what had happened. John Hull has been accused of masterminding it or being involved in it. That's absolutely scurrilous as well. And I'm saying this under oath.
The 1984 bombing at La Penca, Nicaragua, killed 8 people and injured 25 others. Among those killed was American journalist Linda Frazier. The intended victim, Contra leader Eden Pastora, escaped with only minor injuries. But some people started asking, who would want to kill Pastora, and why?
Eden Pastora, who was the famous Comandante Zero, a major military commander and hero of the Sandinista peasant revolution against Anastasio Somoza, the dictator in Nicaragua, had become growingly disenchanted with the revolutionary government, the coalition government in Nicaragua. In 1982, he left Nicaragua and went to Costa Rica. His purpose was to organize a genuinely indigenous group of Nicaraguans to undertake a political and military resistance to the Nicaraguan government.
Tony Abergan, freelance journalist and news cameraman, was working for ABC News in Costa Rica during the Pastora controversy.
Pastora had received an ultimatum from the Central Intelligence Agency saying that you must accept unity with the largest Contra group, the FDN, or face a cutoff in aid and unspecified consequences. He called this news conference for the purpose of saying that he would not give in to this demand and that he would never accept unity with the FDN, and basically to tell the CIA to go to hell.
Because of moral reasons, because of political and ideological reasons. We could not unify, become allies with the historical murderers of our people.
The international media was invited to this press conference held at Pastora's Contra base camp just inside the Nicaraguan border at La Penca. Tony Abergan was one of the journalists who made the trip upriver to hear Pastora.
It was just a very, very routine day. I myself had made at least a dozen, maybe 15 trips to Contra camps in southern Nicaragua, and this was just one more, and I thought absolutely nothing of it. I mean, didn't think there was any danger involved, whatsoever.
So we got there at about 7 o'clock in the evening, and we went up to this cottage, and Pastora was there. So very soon he started talking with us. A girl came in and offered him some coffee. Some seconds afterwards, or maybe 1 minute afterwards, the bomb exploded.
Yo, sencilla y llanamente, con los que asesinaron a mi pueblo, con los que asesinaron a mi padre, con los que...
I felt my hair and my skin on fire, and I thought if it only happened to me. And I fell forward onto the floor trying to put out the fire, and almost as soon as I hit the floor, I realized that it wasn't just me.
After more than 12 hours, the injured journalists finally arrived at the hospital in Quesada, Costa Rica. Tony Abergan's wife, Martha Honey, also a journalist, was at the hospital.
I noticed as we came out of the emergency door that there was this person sitting there who I asked the nurses, who is that? And they said, oh, that's Per Anker Hansen, a Danish journalist. And he was sitting in hospital garb, but obviously, only slightly, if at all, injured, and sitting there chain smoking, very calm, just kind of watching what was going on. And what we later learned was that he had left the hospital and had gone back to his hotel, checked out, and vanished, and that was the last that any of us ever saw of him.
After Abergon's recovery, he and Martha Honey began an investigation of the bombing incident. They found that the bomb had been made with C4, a very powerful explosive.
The action is well done, it's very precise, and we didn't get to Perangel Hassan, never, we didn't get to him. That means that he has a very good network to help him. That is the reason why I think there's an organized crime there. I don't care if it is left or right. I think there is a network behind Perangel Hassan.
I think within, about 2 months, it became pretty clear to us that what we were looking at was a group of people which included some Cuban Americans from Miami, this fellow John Hull here, who works for the CIA in northern Costa Rica, some of the top leadership of the Contra organization, the FDN, including Adolfo Calero, and some other people leading up towards the White House.
Son las mismas fuerzas. La contrarrevolución.
They are the same forces. The counter-revolution, supervised by Senor Calero, and sections of the CIA and the National Security Council, conducted by Mr. Maroney, whose other name is Dewey Claridge, in the Central Intelligence Agency, and in the National Security Council, conducted by Colonel Oliver North.
Oliver North eran los interesados.
They were the ones interested, or the ones in whose interest it would be, to eliminate the Southern forces or to eliminate us.
I have no idea who placed the bomb in the Pinca or why. I have no idea. I only know that this Honey and Abergon have constantly bribed people to give false information implicating the CIA, the Costa Rican officials, and so forth. If the CIA has the capacity, if they wanted to kill somebody, they wouldn't have to kill a bunch of innocent press people. That's logical. And they have no need they had no need to kill. What would the CIA gain by Eden Pastora being dead?
Clearly, the Reagan administration, in its policy with respect to Nicaragua, has again and again taken the position that the end justifies the means. They're perfectly happy to subvert domestic law, international law, because they have a higher goal in their own minds, and that is to fight communism.
Now, if we don't support the Nicaraguan democratic resistance and ignore the communist threat that exists right now in Central America, what in your opinion you think might happen in the next 20 years in this hemisphere, and maybe throughout the world?
It won't take 20 years, Senator. It will take a whole lot less. The consolidation of the communist regime in Managua will result in the spread of that revolution as they themselves have advocated. You will see democracy perish in the rest of Central America.
If the communists get control of Central America, which I assure you they will if we leave Nicaragua as a base for the Cubans and the Russians, then they'll be in a position to throw 50 or 80 million refugees into the United States. They can break our economy and never fire a shot.
If you deeply believe that this is a communist menace that is going to march from Nicaragua up to Texas and Topeka and soon take over the United States, maybe it would justify the means. But if you look back over the history of this thing, each one of these crises has not. Look at Angola. We were told 10 years ago that if we allowed the Marxist government to take over in Angola, we'd never get another oil tanker out of the Persian Gulf, that they would disrupt the sea lanes. Well, the Marxist government did take over in Angola. We were told that if we lost Vietnam and Indochina, that the whole row of dominoes would fall. What were the results? When we lose the war, all the dominoes that were supposed to fall, instead of falling, they become, just a few years later, what the World Bank, our own institution, calls the economically strongest region in the world.